Jake Martinez wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at the broken panel in front of him. The lights in the observation deck kept flickering, and he needed to fix them before the important visitors arrived. The human ship Endeavor was preparing for something big today. Alien diplomats were coming, and everything had to be perfect. Jake had been working on ships for 8 years now. He knew every wire, every circuit, and every sound the Endeavor made. But today felt different. As he worked with his tools, he kept seeing things move in the corner of his eye. When he turned to look, nothing was there. Just empty space and the stars outside the big windows. Must be tired, Jake said to himself. He had been working extra hours to get everything ready for the alien visit. The captain wanted the ship to look its best. The Endeavor was not a big ship, but it was important. Captain Lisa Rodriguez led a crew of 50 humans on missions to meet new alien races. Today they were meeting the Zilithians for the first time. These aliens wanted to make a deal with humans about trading goods and sharing space routes. Jake finished fixing the lights and packed up his tools. The observation deck looked good now. Big comfortable chairs were placed around the room where the captain and aliens would talk. Large windows showed the beautiful stars outside. Everything was clean and ready. As Jake walked toward the door, he saw it again. A shimmer in the air like heat waves on a hot day, but the air system was working fine. The temperature was normal. Jake stopped and stared at the spot, but the shimmer disappeared. "Hey, Jake," a voice called from the hallway. Amy Chen walked into the room carrying a tablet. She worked in the engine room and was Jake's good friend. "Are you done here? The aliens will arrive in 2 hours." "Yeah, all fixed," Jake said. He looked back at where he saw the shimmer. "Amy, have you noticed anything strange today? Like things moving when they shouldn't?" Amy laughed. "You're just nervous about the big meeting." "We all are. This trade deal could help humans expand to new worlds. It's exciting but scary too." Jake nodded, but he was not convinced. Something was in this room with them. He could feel it. 2 hours later, the whole crew gathered to watch the alien ships arrive. Jake stood at the back of the observation deck while Captain Rodriguez and her officers waited near the windows. 3 alien ships appeared in space, beautiful and strange. They were made of something that looked like crystal and metal mixed together. The ships glowed with soft blue light. The main alien ship connected to the Endeavor, and soon the diplomats came aboard. Jake had never seen anything like them. The Zilithians were tall and thin, about 7 feet high. Their skin looked like living crystal that changed colors in the light. When they moved, colors flowed across their bodies like water. Ambassador Kethavar was the leader of the group. He had deep blue crystal skin with silver lines running through it. When he spoke, his voice sounded like music. "Greetings, humans of the ship Endeavor. We come in peace to discuss friendship between our peoples." Captain Rodriguez welcomed them with a smile. "Welcome aboard, Ambassador. We are honored to meet you and learn about your people." Jake watched from his spot near the wall. The aliens were amazing to see, but he kept noticing the shimmer again. It was stronger now, moving around the edge of the room. None of the other humans seemed to see it. Even the aliens did not react to it. During the welcome ceremony, Jake tried to focus on the speeches, but the shimmer kept catching his attention. It moved like a person walking, but he could not see anyone there. Sometimes it stopped near the aliens, sometimes near the humans. It seemed to be watching everything. When the ceremony ended, everyone moved to the dining room for a meal. Jake stayed behind to clean up the observation deck. The room was empty now, quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Jake was putting away chairs when he saw the shimmer again. This time it was stronger, clearer. For just a moment he could almost see a shape, a person sitting in the corner chair. Small and delicate, definitely not human. The figure seemed young and sad. Jake blinked hard and looked again. Nothing, just an empty chair. "Hello?" Jake said quietly to the empty room. "Is someone there?" No answer came, but Jake felt like he was not alone. Someone was listening. Jake finished his work and left the observation deck, but he could not stop thinking about what he saw. That night he lay in his small cabin and stared at the ceiling. The Endeavor was full of aliens now, sleeping in guest rooms down the hall. But Jake was sure there was one more alien on the ship, one that nobody else could see. The next morning, Jake went back to the observation deck early. He brought his coffee and some toast, planning to eat breakfast while he checked the equipment one more time. As he sat down, he saw the shimmer again. This time he did not try to look directly at it. He just sat and ate his breakfast, talking quietly. "Good morning," Jake said to the empty air. "I hope you slept well." The food here is not too bad if you're hungry. The shimmer moved closer to his table. Jake smiled and left half of his toast on a plate before leaving the room. When he came back an hour later, the toast was gone. Jake started bringing extra food to the observation deck every day. A sandwich here, some fruit there, always leaving it on the table before he left. Each time he returned, the food was gone. He never saw anyone eat it, but he knew someone was there. The negotiations between humans and Zilithians continued for 3 days. Jake listened to the aliens talk when he worked nearby. Their language sounded like singing, but the universal translator helped him understand some words. He learned that the Zilithians lived on crystal worlds where light was very important. They used light to talk, to show emotions, and to display their social rank. On the 4th day, Jake was fixing a ventilation system near the meeting room when he heard something that made him stop working. Ambassador Kethvar was talking to another Zilithian in their own language, but the translator picked up some words. "The curse must not be discovered," the ambassador said. "If the humans learn about our shame, the trade talks will fail. What if she is seen?" The other alien asked. "Impossible. No one can see her. Not even we can see her properly. She is invisible to all eyes as punishment for her defect." Jake felt cold. They were talking about someone who was invisible, someone who was here but could not be seen. The shimmer he had been noticing for days. After work, Jake went to Amy Chen's workshop in the engine room. Amy was working on power systems, her hands covered in grease. "Amy, I need to ask you something," Jake said. "What do you know about Zilithian families?" Amy looked up from her work. "Not much." "Why do you ask?" "I heard the ambassador mention something about family shame. Do you think they brought their whole delegation?" "I checked the ship records," Amy said. 5 Zilithians came aboard. The ambassador, 2 advisors, 1 military officer, and 1 science expert. Why, Jake thought about this. 5 aliens, but he was sure there was a 6th presence on the ship. Did anyone count them when they arrived? Captain Rodriguez did the official greeting. She would have noticed if someone was missing or extra. Amy wiped her hands on a cloth. "Jake, you're acting strange. What's really going on?" Jake wanted to tell Amy about the invisible person, but he knew she would not believe him. "Just curious about alien customs." That night, Jake could not sleep. He kept thinking about what the ambassador said. Someone with a defect, someone who was invisible as punishment. The idea made him angry. How could being invisible be a punishment? And why would the aliens be ashamed? The next morning, Jake went to the observation deck earlier than usual. He brought his breakfast and sat down at the table where he always left food. "I know you're here," Jake said to the empty room. "I can't see you clearly, but I know you're listening." The air shimmered near the corner chair. Jake continued talking. "I heard your father talking yesterday. Ambassador Kethvar is your father, isn't he? And you're here on the ship, but nobody acknowledges you exist." The shimmer moved closer to Jake's table. He could almost see the outline of a person now. Small, delicate, definitely female. "My name is Jake," he said. "I work on this ship fixing things that break. I'm not important like the captain or the diplomats, but I see things others miss." Jake finished his breakfast and left extra food on the table. As he stood to leave, he spoke to the air again. "You don't have to hide from me. I don't care if you're invisible. Everyone deserves to be seen." For the next 2 days, Jake continued his routine. He brought food, talked to the invisible presence, and tried to learn more about Zilithian culture. He read everything the ship's computer had about their society. What he learned made him sad and angry. Zilithian culture was based on light and visibility. They judged people by how brightly they could shine, how clearly they could be seen. Those who could not display proper light were considered cursed. Children born with camouflage abilities or transparency were treated as non-existent. Jake began to understand. The invisible person was not hiding by choice. She was born this way, and her own people treated her like she did not exist. On the 7th day of the alien visit, Jake was working in the observation deck when he heard a small sound. Like someone crying softly. The sound came from the corner where he always saw the shimmer. Jake put down his tools and walked slowly toward the corner. "Hey, it's okay," he said gently. "You don't have to cry." The shimmer became clearer. For a moment, Jake could see her. A young Zilithian female, smaller than the adults. Her crystal skin was almost transparent, making her nearly invisible. She was beautiful in a way that was different from the other aliens. While they were bright and colorful, she was subtle and quiet. "I can see you," Jake whispered. "You're real and you're beautiful." The young Zilithian looked up at Jake with large, sad eyes. When she realized he could see her, she became fully invisible again. "Don't hide," Jake said. "I'm not going to hurt you or tell anyone if you don't want me to." Slowly, the shimmer became visible again. The young alien was sitting in the chair looking at Jake with wonder and fear. "You can really see me?" she asked in a voice like soft music. "Yes," Jake said. "What's your name?" "Lyra May," she said quietly. I was the ambassador's youngest daughter." "Was?" Jake asked. "I do not exist in official records. I bring shame to my family because I cannot control my visibility. I am here because my father cannot leave me alone on our homeworld. But I cannot be acknowledged either." Jake felt angry again. How could a father treat his own child this way? "Well, I acknowledge you," Jake said. "And I think you exist just fine." For the first time since Jake had been aware of her, Lyra May smiled. It was a small, careful smile, but it was real. Jake sat down in a chair across from her. "Tell me about yourself, Lyra May. What do you do while everyone ignores you?" "I listen," she said. "I hear everything because no one remembers I am there. I know things about my people that I cannot share because I am not supposed to exist." "That must be lonely," Jake said. "Very lonely," Lyra May agreed. "Until now. You are the first person to really see me in many years." Jake looked at this young alien who had been invisible to her own family. He thought about how humans valued different things than the Zilithians. Humans cared about kindness, courage, and creativity. They did not judge people only by how they looked. "Would you like to be friends?" Jake asked. Lyra May's eyes went wide. "Friends?" "Yes, I'll keep bringing you food and you can tell me about your world. We can talk when no one else is around." "But I am cursed," Lyra May said. "My people say friendship with me brings bad luck." "I don't believe in curses," Jake said. "I believe in people." Lyra May smiled again, brighter this time. "Then yes, Jake Martinez. I would like to be your friend." Jake smiled back. For the first time since the aliens arrived, he felt like something good was happening on the ship. Jake and Lyra May met secretly every day for a week. She told him amazing things about Zilithian society that she learned by being invisible. The trade negotiations were not going well, and Jake began to understand why. "My people are afraid," Lyra May explained as they sat together in the empty observation deck. "They think humans want to take over our crystal worlds. But they also need human technology to protect against something worse." "Something worse?" Jake asked. Lyra May looked around nervously, even though they were alone. "Dark ships have been seen at the edge of our space. Ships that absorb light instead of reflecting it. My father's military advisors think they belong to the Void Seekers, an ancient enemy that destroyed worlds before." Jake leaned forward. This was important information. "Have you told your father what you know?" "How can I tell him anything? He pretends I do not exist. Even when I try to speak, he looks through me like I am not there." Lyra May's voice was sad. "All my knowledge, all the things I hear and see mean nothing because I cannot be properly seen." Jake felt frustrated. Lyra May had valuable information that could help both humans and Zilithians. But her own family would not listen to her. That evening, Jake went to the ship's biolab where they grew food and studied alien plants. Dr. Kate Brown was working late, looking at samples under a microscope. "Hey, Doc," Jake said. "Can I ask you about those glowing algae you're studying?" Dr. Brown looked up from her work. "The bioluminescent cultures from Earth's oceans? What do you want to know?" "Are they safe to touch? Could someone wear them?" "Completely safe. In fact, we use them in emergency lighting systems. They respond to movement and temperature." Dr. Brown studied Jake's face. "Why do you ask?" "Just curious about their properties. Could I have a small sample?" Dr. Brown shrugged and filled a small container with glowing blue-green algae. "Don't eat it, but otherwise it won't hurt you. The glow lasts about 2 weeks before needing fresh nutrients." Jake thanked her and took the container to his workshop. He had an idea that might help Lyra May, but he needed to make something special first. Using thin wire and a small clear container, Jake created a bracelet. He carefully placed the bioluminescent algae inside the wire framework, creating a gentle blue-green glow that moved and shifted like ocean waves. The light was soft but steady, visible in normal light but not too bright. The next morning, Jake brought the bracelet to his meeting with Lyra May. She was waiting in her usual chair. shimmering slightly in the morning light from the windows. "I made something for you," Jake said, holding out the bracelet. Lyra May looked at the glowing object with wonder. "What is it?" "It's a gift. On Earth, we give gifts to show friendship and appreciation. This one is special." Jake held the bracelet closer so she could see it better. "The light comes from tiny living things from our oceans. They glow naturally." "It's beautiful," Lyra May whispered. "But why give it to me?" "Because you deserve to be seen," Jake said. "And because I think this might help others see you too." Lyra May reached out carefully and touched the bracelet. The moment her transparent skin made contact with the bioluminescent algae, something amazing happened. The algae began to glow brighter, and its light seemed to follow the patterns of her crystal skin. Instead of making her more visible by fighting her camouflage, the light worked with it, creating a beautiful outline that showed her true form. "Jake," Lyra May gasped, looking at her arm. "I can see myself clearly." Jake smiled as he watched her become visible in a way that was uniquely beautiful. The bioluminescent glow did not make her look like other Zilithians. Instead, it revealed her natural transparency as something wonderful and special. "How do you feel?" Jake asked. "Different," Lyra May said, turning her arm to watch the light play across her skin. "Not invisible, but not like everyone else either. Like myself." "That's exactly what I hoped for," Jake said. They spent the morning talking about the gift and what it meant. Lyra May told Jake more about the problems with the negotiations and the danger from the Void Seekers. Jake realized that her knowledge could save both species if only she could share it. "Lyra May," Jake said carefully, "what if people could see you tomorrow? What if you could speak at the formal dinner and tell everyone what you know?" Lyra May looked scared. "My father would be angry. I am not supposed to exist at formal events, but you do exist, and you have important information that could help everyone." Jake leaned forward. "You said the Void Seekers are coming. Don't you think both humans and Zilithians should know?" Lyra May was quiet for a long time, looking at the bracelet on her wrist. The bioluminescent algae continued to glow, making her visible and real. "What if they reject me again?" she asked. "Then they're fools," Jake said. "But what if they listen? What if your knowledge saves lives?" That afternoon, while the diplomats met in the conference room, Jake and Lyra May went to the ship's garden. It was a small room with plants from Earth and other worlds, designed to help crew members relax. Lyra May loved the garden because it reminded her of the crystal caves on her homeworld. "Jake," Lyra May said as they walked among the plants, "I want to tell you something important." "What is it?" "The reason my people value visibility so much is because of the Void Seekers. Long ago, our ancestors learned that being seen, being bright and obvious, was the only way to avoid being consumed by the darkness. Those who could not be seen properly were thought to be already touched by the void." Jake felt a chill. "But that's not true, is it?" "No," Lyra May said. "I have studied the old records that my father keeps. The Void Seekers hunt by following bright lights and obvious targets. Those who could hide, who could be invisible, were actually the ones who survived." "So your people have it backwards," Jake said. "Yes. And now the Void Seekers are returning. But my people want to make humans into bright targets too. They think visibility equals safety, but it actually means danger." Jake understood now why the negotiations were failing. The Zilithians wanted humans to use their technology in ways that would make them easier targets for the Void Seekers. "You have to tell them," Jake said. "Tomorrow night at the formal dinner when all the important people are there." Lyra May looked at her glowing bracelet. The bioluminescent light made her feel brave in a way she had never experienced before. "Will you be there?" she asked. "I'll find a way," Jake promised. That evening, Lyra May practiced speaking in the empty observation deck while Jake listened. She rehearsed what she would say about the Void Seekers, about the real history of her people, and about why the current trade proposals were dangerous. As they talked, Jake noticed that the bracelet's glow was getting stronger. The bioluminescent algae seemed to be responding to Lyra May's emotions, glowing brighter when she felt confident and dimmer when she was scared. "It's like the light knows how you feel," Jake observed. "Maybe it does," Lyra May said, touching the bracelet gently. "On my world, we believe that light has consciousness. Perhaps your earth algae and my crystal skin are learning to work together." The next day passed slowly. Jake worked on routine maintenance while thinking about the evening ahead. Lyra May stayed hidden in her quarters, preparing for what might be the most important moment of her life. As evening approached, Jake put on his best uniform and made his way to the formal dining room. He was not invited to the dinner, but he planned to find a way to be nearby when Lyra May needed support. The dining room was beautiful, decorated with lights from both human and Zilithian cultures. Captain Rodriguez sat at the head of the table with Ambassador Kethvar beside her. The other diplomats and crew members filled the elegant room with conversation and laughter. Jake hid in the service corridor where he could see through the kitchen doors. Now he just had to wait for Lyra May to find the courage to reveal herself to everyone. The moment that would change everything was about to begin. The formal dinner was halfway through when it happened. Jake watched from his hiding spot as the diplomats discussed trade routes and territory agreements. The conversation was polite but tense. Neither side seemed happy with the proposed deals. Captain Rodriguez was trying to keep everyone calm. Ambassador Kethvar, surely we can find a solution that benefits both our peoples. The terms remain difficult, the ambassador replied. His crystal skin flashing with orange patterns that Jake had learned meant frustration. Your people ask for much but offer little protection. Protection from what? Asked Commander Steve Wilson, the ship's security chief. Before the ambassador could answer, something extraordinary happened. The dining room doors opened and a figure stepped inside. At first everyone looked confused because they could not see anyone clearly. Then the bioluminescent glow became visible, outlining a graceful form in soft blue-green light. Lyra May stood in the doorway wearing Jake's bracelet. The algae had grown brighter and more responsive to her emotions. Her transparent crystal skin worked with the earth light to create something beautiful and unique. She was visible but in her own special way. The effect on the room was immediate. Several humans gasped in surprise. The Zilithian diplomats made shocked musical sounds. Ambassador Kethvar's face went through several color changes before settling on deep purple, which Jake knew meant extreme shock. Lyra May, the ambassador whispered, his voice breaking. Is that really you? Hello, Father, Lyra May said, her own voice strong and clear. I am here and I need to speak. Captain Rodriguez stood up quickly. Ambassador, who is this? We were not told of an additional delegate. Ambassador Kethvar could not seem to find words. One of his advisors, a tall Zilithian with silver skin, spoke instead. She is the ambassador's daughter. But she cannot be here. She does not exist in our official records. I exist, Lyra May said firmly, walking into the room. The bioluminescent bracelet pulsed gently with each step. I have always existed. I have been on this ship since we arrived, listening to everything, learning everything. Commander Wilson reached for his weapon, but Captain Rodriguez held up her hand to stop him. Let her speak, the captain said. Lyra May moved to the center of the room where everyone could see her clearly. The blue-green glow from her bracelet cast gentle light on the walls, making her presence undeniable. My father and his advisors have not told you the whole truth about why we need this alliance, Lyra May began. They are afraid to speak of our real enemy because it brings shame to our people. Lyra May, you must not speak, Ambassador Kethvar said urgently. These are not matters for who, Father? For someone who does not exist? Lyra May's glow brightened with her emotions. I have spent my whole life being invisible, listening to secrets, learning truths that no one wants to acknowledge. But now I can be seen and I will speak. Jake felt proud watching her stand up to her father and the other diplomats. This was nothing like the scared, invisible girl he had first met. What truth? Captain Rodriguez asked gently. Lyra May turned to address both the human and Zilithian delegates. The Void Seekers are returning. Dark ships that consume light and destroy worlds. They were defeated long ago by our ancestors, but the old stories tell us they always come back. The room became very quiet. Jake could see fear in the Zilithian delegates' faces and confusion in the humans' faces. Who are the Void Seekers? Asked Dr. Kate Brown. An ancient enemy, Lyra May explained. They travel in ships that absorb all light, making space around them completely dark. They attack civilizations that shine too brightly, consuming their light and leaving dead worlds behind. Ambassador Kethvar finally spoke, his voice heavy with shame. The child speaks truth. Void Seeker scouts have been seen at the edge of our space. We came to you seeking alliance, but we did not tell you about this threat because you thought we would refuse to help. Captain Rodriguez finished. You thought if we knew about this enemy, we would not want to trade with you. Would you? asked the silver-skinned advisor. Captain Rodriguez was quiet for a moment, then smiled. Probably not. But now that we know, we can make better decisions. Lyra May stepped closer to the table. There is more. The trade proposals you have been discussing are dangerous for both our peoples. How so? Commander Wilson asked. My people believe that being visible, being bright and obvious keeps us safe from the Void Seekers. Our whole culture is built on this belief. We want to share our light technology with humans to make your ships and worlds shine brightly. That sounds like a good thing, Dr. Brown said. No, Lyra May said, her bracelet pulsing with urgency. I have read the old records, the true histories that only my father's family keeps. The Void Seekers hunt by following bright lights. The civilizations that survived their attacks were the ones who learned to hide, to be invisible, to avoid drawing attention. Jake watched the faces around the room change as people understood what Lyra May was saying. You mean the brighter we shine, the easier we are to find? Captain Rodriguez asked. Exactly. Our ancestors survived by learning to camouflage themselves, to become invisible when the Void Seekers came. But over time we forgot this truth and began to believe that brightness meant safety. Ambassador Kethvar looked older and more tired than before. The shame of our people. We have built our entire society on a lie born from fear. Not a lie, Lyra May said gently. A mistake. One that can be corrected, but how? Asked Commander Wilson. If these Void Seekers are coming, how do we fight ships that absorb light? Lyra May smiled, and her bioluminescent bracelet glowed softly. The same way my new friend helped me become visible in my own way. We combine human creativity with Zilithian knowledge. We learn to use different kinds of light, different ways of being seen. She looked directly at Jake's hiding spot, somehow knowing he was there. A human taught me that being different is not the same as being wrong. Human technology does not try to make everything bright and obvious. Humans create subtle lights, hidden systems, camouflage defenses. Captain Rodriguez followed Lyra May's gaze and spotted Jake behind the kitchen doors. Mr. Martinez, please join us. Jake felt embarrassed as he walked into the dining room, but Lyra May's encouraging smile gave him courage. Jake is the one who made my bracelet, Lyra May announced. He used earth algae that glows softly instead of harshly. The light works with my natural camouflage instead of fighting against it. Ambassador Kethvar stared at Jake with new interest. You did this? You made her visible? She was always visible, Jake said quietly. I just helped her be seen. The human understands something we forgot, Lyra May said. There are many ways to exist, many ways to be seen, many ways to survive. If we combine human adaptability with Zilithian light technology, we can create defenses that the Void Seekers cannot detect or absorb. Captain Rodriguez stood up and walked to where Lyra May and Jake stood together. Princess Lyra May, are you willing to help us develop these new defenses? I am not a princess in my people's eyes, Lyra May said. But yes, I will help, if you will accept me as I am. We accept you, Captain Rodriguez said firmly. She turned to Ambassador Kethvar. Ambassador, I think we need to start these negotiations over again. This time with all the truth and all the people who should be included. Ambassador Kethvar looked at his daughter, really looked at her, for the first time in years. Yes, he said quietly. It is time for truth. Jake watched as Lyra May took her place at the diplomatic table, no longer invisible, no longer ignored. Her bioluminescent bracelet glowed steadily, a symbol of how different kinds of light could work together to create something new and beautiful. The real negotiations were about to begin. 3 weeks later, Jake stood in the ship's new laboratory watching Lyra May work with Dr. Kate Brown on their latest project. The lab had been expanded to include both human and Zilithian technology, creating a unique workspace where two different approaches to science could combine. Hand me the crystal resonator, Lyra May said, her bioluminescent bracelet glowing softly as she worked. She had started wearing it every day, and Jake noticed that other crew members had begun creating their own versions using different Earth organisms. The negotiations had changed completely after Lyra May's revelation. Instead of simple trade agreements, humans and Zilithians were now working together to develop new technologies that could hide their worlds from the Void Seekers. Captain Rodriguez entered the lab carrying a data pad. How is the prototype coming along? Very well, Dr. Brown replied, pointing to a device on the workbench. By combining Lyra May's knowledge of crystal light manipulation With our bioluminescent organisms, we've created a camouflage system that can make entire ships invisible to void-seeker detection methods. Jake picked up the device carefully. It looked like a larger version of Lyra May's bracelet, but instead of just glowing, it created a field that bent light around objects in subtle ways. The best part, Lyra May added, is that it does not try to eliminate all light like void-seeker technology does. Instead, it redirects light naturally the way my skin does. Ships using this system will be invisible to dark sensors but still visible to normal eyes. That means our own people can still see and coordinate with each other, Captain Rodriguez said with approval. Excellent work, both of you. Jake felt proud watching Lyra May explain their discoveries. She had become confident and outgoing, no longer hiding from others. The other Zilithian delegates had gradually accepted her presence, especially after her father publicly acknowledged her as his daughter and heir. Ambassador Kethavar entered the lab, his crystal skin showing the blue patterns that meant happiness and pride. Princess Lyra May, the Council has approved your proposal for the Joint Defense Initiative. What does that mean? Jake asked. It means both our peoples will work together to prepare for the Void Seekers, Lyra May explained. We will share our crystal technology, and humans will share their adaptive camouflage techniques. Together, we can create defenses that neither of us could make alone. Captain Rodriguez smiled. Speaking of working together, I have news for both of you. Jake, you've been promoted to Cultural Exchange Specialist. Your ability to see beyond surface differences makes you valuable for future first contact missions. Jake was surprised. I don't know anything about diplomacy, Captain. You know about understanding people, Captain Rodriguez replied. That's more important than formal training. You saw value in someone everyone else ignored. That's exactly what we need when meeting new alien species. Lyra May's bracelet glowed brighter with excitement, and I have been appointed as the first Zilithian Human Cultural Exchange Officer. I will travel with human ships to help bridge the gap between our peoples. That means you'll be staying on the Endeavor? Jake asked hopefully. If you do not mind sharing your workshop with alien technology, Lyra May said with a smile. Over the following months, Jake and Lyra May worked together to develop new communication systems that helped humans and Zilithians understand each other better. They created bioluminescent translators that showed emotional context along with words, making conversations more natural and preventing misunderstandings. The Void Seeker threat had brought the two species together, but it was the friendship between a maintenance worker and an invisible princess that made their cooperation truly successful. Jake often thought about how small his original gift had been. Just a simple bracelet made from algae and wire, but that small gesture had led to saving two civilizations and creating a new kind of alliance based on understanding rather than fear. Jake, Lyra May called from across their shared laboratory. Come look at this. Jake walked over to where she was working on their latest project. She had created a garden of bioluminescent plants that could communicate with Zilithian crystal technology. The plants glowed in response to thoughts and emotions, creating a living light display that was beautiful and functional. It's amazing, Jake said, watching the plants respond to Lyra May's presence with gentle waves of blue and green light. This is what happens when different forms of life work together instead of trying to be the same, Lyra May said. The plants keep their earth nature, the crystals keep their Zilithian properties, but together they create something new. Like us, Jake said. Like all of us, Lyra May agreed, gesturing to include the human and Zilithian crew members working together throughout the ship. The Endeavor had become a symbol of cooperation between species. Other ships were being built using the same principles, with mixed crews and combined technologies. The Void Seekers were still out there, but when they eventually arrived, they would face united worlds that had learned to hide in plain sight. Jake's workshop had been expanded into a full research department, where humans and Zilithians worked side by side. Amy Chen had been promoted to chief engineer and worked closely with Zilithian crystal specialist Dr. Brown, led a team developing new medical techniques that combined human adaptability with Zilithian light therapy. Every project started with the same principle Jake had used when making Lyra May's bracelet. Instead of trying to change what made each species different, they found ways to make those differences work together. There's something else I want to show you, Lyra May said, leading Jake to a quiet corner of the lab. She opened a storage container and pulled out dozens of bioluminescent bracelets similar to her original one. But each was different, made with various Earth organisms and designed for different purposes. I have been making these for Zilithian children who have visibility problems like I did, Lyra May explained. Each bracelet is unique, designed to work with their specific abilities instead of trying to make them look like everyone else. Jake picked up one of the bracelets. This one used purple algae and created patterns that shifted like aurora lights. They're all beautiful. And all different, Lyra May said proudly. Just like the children who will wear them. I am teaching my people that there are many ways to be seen, many ways to exist, many ways to contribute. Your father must be proud, Jake said. He is learning, Lyra May replied diplomatically. Change is difficult for people who have believed the same things for many generations. But he tries, and that is what matters. That evening, Jake and Lyra May stood together in the observation deck where they had first become friends. The stars outside looked the same, but everything else had changed. The Endeavor was now part of a fleet of mixed human Zilithian ships, preparing to establish joint colonies and defense stations. Do you ever regret it? Jake asked. Giving up your invisibility to become visible? Lyra May touched her bioluminescent bracelet thoughtfully. I did not give up my invisibility. I learned to control it. I can still become completely unseen when I need to, but now I can also choose to be visible when I want to be. The best of both worlds, Jake said. The best of all worlds, Lyra May corrected with a smile. That is what we are building now. Not a universe where everyone is the same, but one where differences are valued and celebrated. Jake looked out at the stars and thought about all the alien species they had yet to meet. Each would be different. Each would have their own gifts and challenges. But now he knew that those differences could be sources of strength rather than division. A year later, when the first Void Seeker scouts finally arrived at the edge of human Zilithian space, they found nothing. The joint colonies were completely hidden, invisible to their dark sensors but shining brightly with the combined light of two species working as one. The scouts searched for weeks before giving up and returning to whatever dark realm they came from. When they reported back to their masters, they would say that this region of space was empty, lifeless, not worth attacking. But Jake and Lyra May knew better. They stood together in their laboratory, surrounded by the soft glow of bioluminescent technology and the gentle shine of crystal light. The universe was full of life and friendship and hope. It was just hidden in plain sight, waiting for those with the wisdom to really see. Jake's small gift had grown into something magnificent. A simple bracelet had become a symbol of unity, understanding, and the power of recognizing the value in those who are different. And in a galaxy full of wonders and dangers, that power would light the way forward for generations to come.